This is Steve Ridgel, and tomorrow is July 4th, and so I'm sitting out on the porch early on July 3rd and drinking my coffee, watching deer out in our pasture, and my dog's running. Remy's running around here somewhere. I'm mostly trying to make friends with deer and not run them off. But I'm thinking this morning about freedom because in the United States, July 4th is the big day of freedom when we celebrate our independence. You know, I've thought a lot about what that means for a Christian to be free, because Christians are always free. Now, some of you think, no, because I know Christians, some Christians live in countries where they're persecuted, countries that are run by dictators, countries that are run by communist, countries that are run by other religions that are not based on Jesus. And so I know Christians aren't always free in those. No, you're talking about political freedom, or as we define it in America, the freedom to do what I want to do, and nobody can oppose that or stop that. And we don't really have that in America because there are still certain things that you just can't do without being arrested and put in jail. And jail is not a place for freedom. But there are a lot of things that Christians always have. And so I want to remind you real quick of a few things that Christians are always, the freedom we always have, where in Jesus we are always free. Now, number one, the first thing most of us think of is, well, we're free from our sin. And that's true. Jesus died so we could be forgiven for our sins. And when that happens, sin no longer has a hold on us. I know lots of Christians, many of you who have defeated your addictions. We're free from the guilt of our sin, free from the consequences of our sin. When I get to heaven and Satan runs up and says, you can't let Steve in, let me tell you all the things he did. Well, everywhere he opens the book of life, there's going to be a blood stain covering up all the wrong stuff. Jesus' blood. I'm free from my sin. And for all of us who have conquered our greed or our lust or our pride or all the other sinful things in this world, we understand what that freedom means. So we Christians are always free from our sin because of Jesus. Now, I'll tell you another thing. We Christians are free from having to keep a bunch of rules to get to heaven. We're free from that. Jesus said, my grace is going to save you. You can't do enough. You can't follow enough rules. And frankly, you'll never follow all the rules. Well, we don't have to do that. If you ever know anybody that got a little confused about their freedom and thought their salvation depended on not doing this, and I can't forget to do this or I won't get to heaven, or if I do this, I won't get to heaven, and you're free from having to keep rules. You know, the Bible's not a rule book. Well, I know there are rules where it says do this, don't do that. It does, but it's all in the context of living for Jesus, following Jesus, living a life of freedom. So I'm free from my sin. I'm free from having to keep a bunch of rules to get myself into heaven, because I never will be able to. And boy, is that freeing. You know, my salvation does not depend on me. It depends on Jesus. But you have to follow Jesus. Yes, I do follow Jesus because he saved me. I don't save myself. And one last thing I want to remind Christians, we're free from ourselves. And that's a big deal. You ever tried to run your own life? You ever tried to figure everything out? You ever tried to say, okay, I know how this will happen, and then maybe not even your fault, you get sick, or you have a natural disaster, or you get laid off at work, or your wife walks out on you, or one of your kids. There's so many things you don't control. And when you think you have to control your life and the success of your life depends on you, that's a miserable thing. Well, I'm free from all that. Jesus has my life. Jesus and God know how long my life will be. They know what's going to happen. They've got good works for me to do that they prepared for me. They run my life. And that is so freeing to not have to worry about that. So this is Steve Ridgel. I'm being thankful on this day. When I think about July 4th, I'm being thankful for the freedom from sin, the freedom from having to be a rule follower to save myself, and frankly, free from myself.